Hello right bags, it's Jade. Welcome to a New World special video today, taking a look at everything that we've gained so far in knowledge since the huge reveal at the Game Awards. That New World will be coming out in May 2020 and there's going to be a closed beta for everyone that pre-orders the game in April. I myself got invited by the developers to check out the game in LA last year, and I can't really talk about what I saw, but there has been plenty of gameplay videos from news outlets now in the last 10 months showing us some actual gameplay footage. So the new CGI trailer also brought forth more information though, so I'm going to rattle off some things you need to know, then I'm going to go in a little bit more depth and a little bit more opinion about the game coming out in May next year. The game is going to be available on Steam, but there's no plans as of yet for Xbox and PlayStation. It apparently uses top end processing power and hardware, and there are some rumours we're going to see announcements about Amazon Gaming's cloud streaming platform they want in competition with Google Stadia. That remains to be seen, but it is going to be launching on Steam. It won't necessarily just be on its own separate launcher, it will be on the Steam platforms too. Pre-orders are now live. There are two different versions, deluxe version for $49 and a smaller or base version for $39. That's pretty cheap considering. I'm guessing they're looking at really getting an install base compared to other games like Ark, Conan or typical other MMOs. It's a little bit hard digesting what type of game New World is. Is it going to be smaller player led affairs like Ark, like Conan with a max of 70 or 100 players, or Conan's even smaller? Or is it going to be them big massive ones like Black Desert Online where there's much more players available, etc. No plans for any subscription, and I've not seen anything about heavy monetization or cosmetics, etc. Maybe that's all going to be revealed near the time, but so far nothing like that just yet. Obviously with Daddy Amazon as its father, you can probably see some really integrations into Twitch, and maybe there's going to be some stuff where they can get uses out of how players can decide in votes and stuff while watching your favourite streamer. Did have a quite lengthy alpha process that's now closed, but they are looking to open up more closed testing in the new year, and they're also going to have a beta for anyone that pre-orders the game. You'll be able to take part in that in April. They've dropped a lot of the word or usage of the word survival when it first got announced about a year and a half, maybe 18 months ago. That was a tagline in a lot of it. New World Survival MMO. Now it's just New World MMO. There's still going to be the crafting, the gathering, all the sort of shenanigans you come to expect, but without maybe the boring bits like thirst and hunger. But that is not confirmed. Just everything I've seen from some of the gameplay footage over the last 10 months, I've not seen too many hunger bars or food bars, etc. Combat is a big deal in New World. They've said they don't want classes. We'll dive into that a little bit later as well, but they've really tried to style it a little bit on Dark Souls. How much of that is actually true, how much of that is actually going to end up being the case, we'll have to see. I'm not fully expecting a one-for-one exact system like Dark Souls, but any MMO that adds that kind of content where it's proper combat rather than just tab targeting, I am down for. Anyway, let's crack on. So New World is set in the 17th century. It's history but fantasy. The countries of the world are fighting over the new continent Aterum and the magical power of Azoth that can transform and change. There is going to be PvP as you would expect, but if you really aren't a big fan of PvP, you can avoid it altogether. It's very much co-opt in or copt out experience. Lots of the interviews over the last year or so have exclaimed that you can just forge a life for yourself. If you wanted to become a master blacksmith, you can do, selling weapons that you've crafted to players. Or if you really want to get into the nitty gritty of PvP, 50 player versus 50 player instances. The interviews over the last few days definitely hone in on the fort combat and basically trying to take over areas and getting massive territories to own under your leadership. A bit like lots of other MMOs and maybe Atlas in the most recent comparison, you'll be able to set taxes so that other players can contribute if they start to build on your land or make a life for themselves. Or if they find that your tax rates are maybe a bit too high, they can join in with the enemy and start attacking you. It's not just players you've got to worry about though, there is AI and apparently there's going to be hundreds of them. This may build up over time as you get more powerful, as your guild, your clan starts building up your territories and defending them from other players. You'll also notice that the island of Aterum is going to push back. I guess it's their answer to what happens when servers are a little bit quiet and players maybe aren't as engaged. You've got the NPC or the enemies there to come and give you a little bit of trouble and something to really fight over and do. But yeah, pretty much all the interviews are spewing the same sort of stuff. You're going to be able to have your own house, decorate it, invite players into it. You'll be able to play on your own, play in groups. and it should be fairly easy just to group up in temporary instances or join proper big clans. There's going to be lots of quests that are very single player led, and then there's going to be some that really do involve you getting involved with other people. The island itself, Aetherum, is filled with supernatural properties, and as you saw from the dev little excerpt I showed a bit ago, many of the creatures are normal looking, but once they have the magic of the Azoth hitting to them, it melds them, it transforms them into very different creatures. So I guess again this is their way of mixing it up, adding a bit of variety, having souped up bears or souped up stags. It's going to be pretty interesting. They're really talking also about the world of Aetherum in lots of interviews, saying that every tree can be chopped, every bush, every boulder can be mined. If you see oil, you can grab that oil. If you see an animal, you can kill it and skin it. And this is where the survival element is still there, and I really do hope it has not been jettisoned completely. Maybe they've taken away some of the most annoying contrivances like food and water and made it more just about what you can do in terms of gathering and crafting. The world isn't hard gated. There's certainly going to be spots where you probably do need to be high level, level 20, but it's not going to just block you off and not let you go and maybe tag along with others. Although that's not set directly in stone right now, they are looking at other ways that they can maybe make the exploration better. One of the big things that New World seems to have going for it is the combat. If you ever liked Dark Souls, then you may be enjoying a bit of New World. Now we've had a little bit of a promise before, although not a big promise, from something like the Conan Exiles devs. They never proclaimed to make a combat system as deep as something like Dark Souls, but it was definitely something like they would like to do maybe. If New World can maybe even get half of that kind of feel from Dark Souls in its combat system, I think it's got a really good chance at standing out and being unique. I don't really play all these huge massive MMOs, especially the ones obviously see a lot of advertisements from the east or really old school ones. They take a lot to get into, and from a console perspective where I come from, I'm not a big fan of playing that type of game where you just use the tab to highlight your enemies. So I'm definitely down for an actual game, an MMO that's got proper combat in it. They're also promising that on the battlefield, players are going to actually have proper hitboxes and they'll occupy space, so you're not going to simply just be able to zip through your teammates. You're going to have to think strategically about where entry points are going to be, attacking other players' forts. There is going to be some level differences, but that doesn't mean you're never going to be able to take out other players. The levels will give you more power, but people who are very good or have a good shot, they're still going to be able to take on lots of groups of other people, even if it seems they're a bit too high. As I said, there's plenty of video footage out there from this event from various different news sites. You go and check it out. The map's pretty cool, it's pretty large. You can see there it's got all sorts of locations and it looks very different, like the biomes and just the topography of it looks pretty interesting too, if maybe a little bit bland and a little bit brown still. It's the typical sort of stuff, jumping down, gathering resources, but the forts here you can see are pretty impressive and big, and I'm assuming that you'll be able to build and place a lot of these, or maybe upgrade them over time, as it looks pretty set where certain things are. And there's various different landmarks and waypoints that you can check out too. Obviously it's going to have a day and night cycle and weather effects as well, but it looks atmospheric, and remember this was from 10 months ago, so the game's still not coming out for another 5 months, so there's plenty of work to be done still, but I think it looks pretty decent. You can see here we've got obviously the progression system, attributes and trade skills, so there's very different ways of upgrading and leveling up, and there's so many of these, it's a bit overwhelming. Maybe the presentation's not as maybe exciting, maybe you need to jazz it up a little bit or make it look a bit more interesting rather than just boxes that you're ticking. Devs are keen to stress that it's not class based though. You can choose and mix up your playstyle anytime you want just by simply rearranging your points or gaining more experience to put points in certain things. It's more of a focus on the weapons and armour. That's what's going to define your power level, that's what's going to define your character. What type of armour and weapons you're using, that is your class. So you can see from this leather play hat you've got a gear score with physical damage and elemental damage, and it looks pretty standard. Void, fire, lightning and magic is making up the elemental effects, and then the physical is standard, slash, thrust, strike and siege. That's a little bit more involved I think than some people are going to be used to. So really honing in on certain weapons that are going to give you more strike damage, more siege damage, etc. could be pretty cool, and it opens up the variety of weapons you can craft. You've got the resistance there as well, giving you an idea of what the armor type is going to do for you, whether it's going to be effective against poison, corruption, wound, frostbite or disease. Hunting is obviously going to be a big part of the game, not just defending yourself against enemies but also taking on stuff. So yeah, I'm down for an MMO that offers this kind of visceral combat and makes it more of a similar to games like I've played in the past, like Conan Exiles, rather than the tag targeting from other games like MMOs. I am sure I'll have access to the closed beta, and hopefully I'll be able to show you guys some preview and early game footage next year. If you like the look of New World, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'm going to keep you guys up to date with any more news and big reveals coming in the next few months. Don't forget to like the video, go and check out all my other survival games content, and I'll see you rat bags later.